Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening.
Hello, everyone.
We have like 2 minutes delay because there was some issue with the sound, but everything is fine. So welcome to our
Yes.
session on FOPO, fear of other people opinion. So
And Jan, were you nervous? Did you have to tell everyone we're 2 minutes late because you were nervous they were judging us
no,
for being late?
no. I think it would be fun if we don't hear each other, and we can still speak and they can hear us, right?
We should do an
So,
experiment where it's just body language reading, right?
absolutely, absolutely. I will just check on LinkedIn whether it's
Yes,
okay.
perfect. And
And, and if you
today's
can put on the comments that you can see us and hear us both on YouTube and LinkedIn, that would be great. And yeah. Good evening from Finland. Yeah, we go, on.
You've got a good hockey game. We've got a good hockey game going on in Switzerland. My hometown of Zug is in the playoffs, and they were down. It was 3-0, and if you get 4, obviously you win the championship. And now they've won the last 2 games, so it's getting
Yeah,
close.
the Swiss league is getting better and better. Well, absolutely. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, the team is FOPO, fear of other people opinion. So I asked Lisa to kick it off, and then I have a lot of notes. In fact, I found out that the guy who used the term FOPO for the first time in psychology is Michael Gervais, and we know each other because he worked with Microsoft, and we did even some sessions on Clubhouse last year together. So absolutely.
Funny. So his little contribution to history. Yes,
Yeah.
fear of other people's opinions, also known as the fear of judgment, also known as the fear of public speaking. People would rather die than speak in public. Why is that? Why do we care so much what other people think? It's biological. We're going to talk about it today, why it's hardwired into us, why by default we're going to care what other people think. And for me, from my side, this topic has been like the fundamental basis for everything I do in coaching, because so much of what we do, whether we realize it or not, is based on how do we think other people are going to perceive us if we do this, if we say this, if we choose this, if we don't do this. And we end up living our whole lives just based on what we think others want. But the most important reason we're having this conversation is because when you're dying, and I hope nobody's dying here anytime soon, let's imagine into the future when we're 100 years old, we know that when people on their deathbeds talk about what they regret the most about their lives, the number one is, I didn't live my life for me. I lived my life trying to meet the expectations of what I thought others wanted from me. So Jan and I are going to help you today figure out how to get past these fear of other people's opinions so you can actually reclaim your life. Does that sound good? Not a
Right.
small subject here today. So you've
Okay.
got a whole lot of notes, Jan.
Yeah.
Why don't you kick us off?
Let's talk about the history of FOPO. Okay. The FOPO was here already with our, predecessors when they started to live together. And there was somebody who, for example, made some mistake and he was pushed out of the group. It meant like no mangiare, no food, no drinks, nothing. It was eventually like dying. Okay. Today, if somebody is writing some bad comments, some bullshit, bingo on social networks, for example, you are obviously not dying, but in your subconsciousness it is the same thing, like, hey, I'm afraid of my life, right? You are like fighting for your survival. This is this is what evolution brought, right? So it's the same. We have the same brain as our predecessors, so we are really scared to what other people think. That's number one. It is from the history. And everybody, if you are like mentally healthy, everybody wants to be liked. Okay, everybody wants to be liked, but and some people, amygdala works in the way like, if 90% really people love you and 10%, and it's always that some people will hate you, right? Amygdala, our emotional part of the brain, is jumping on that negativity, on that criticism all the time, and that's the problem. If we are not trained, it is always like jumping on all of that negativity. Now, why the FOPO is so bad for whatever you do, whether you are in the business, sport, art, it doesn't matter. Because FOPO is demonizing your own mistakes. Okay. Because FOPO is saying, hey, if you will make some mistake, you will be out of the group and then you may, die. That's why we are mesmerized by our own mistakes, and we are learning by mistakes. Mainly human beings are learning by mistakes, because if you made some mistake, neuroadrenaline, like the peak of neuroadrenaline is created, and it says like, hey, this is really important, you need to learn from that, and you move on, right? But I can tell you, almost 100% of the cases when like my athletes are losing some games or races, it's because of the FOPO. Give you some last example. Jiří Lehecka, my tennis player, he was like playing last week with Rublev. He's number 8 in the world. Okay, Jiří won first set, and he was winning in the second set. Look, really, really good. And then suddenly he started to be very nervous. And what happened? He was saying, hey, I was like afraid to win, more or less. I was like, hey, I need to win, and now all of the fans will be with me, whatever, and he lost. Okay. No, I mean, it's not shame, because then Rublev, won 6-0 in the third set, competing with Djokovic, number 1 in the world. So this is pretty good. At the end of the day, I mean, like if you think about mental toughness, it's pretty good. But still, a lot of those mistakes are done because of the FOPO, because you are like, hey, I need to close it, I need to win. If I'm not, winning, what, my fans will say, what the media will say, and then you start to make, mistakes. So that's kind of the number one. Number two, FOPO is very often driven by your parents, how you were like brought up, right? And by education. That's the same thing. My mom, because my mother was a teacher, it was always like, hey, you need to have all excellent ratings. What the other people will say, if I'm teacher, I have a kids with like, 1 was the excellent, 2 is like very good. Okay. If you have like 2, it's so bad, right? And it's the FOPO is irrational, in fact, right? On the other hand, we really believe in the other people opinion. Okay. And that's why, if you, for example, if you are at a meeting and you know something, and nobody else knows, you are afraid to raise your hand, okay, because of the FOPO. What if it's not, right, okay? Or if you are like playing soccer, football, you are, afraid to shoot, because hey, if I'm not, scoring, whatever my coach, what my coach will say. And in fact, FOPO, we will talk about what to do with the FOPO later on. But there are a couple of things when I was thinking about it. Why FOPO is bad for us? Okay, number one, FOPO is restricting you in your life, because FOPO is more or less saying, hey, you should be always part of the crowd. It's not necessary. It's good to be good team player, don't get me wrong, but it's good to be individual. It's good to be you, right? I have those t-shirts, be more of who you are, which I really believe in, right? If you are part of the crowd, somebody else is trying always to manage your mind. I put on Instagram that the only freedom we have, it's our mind. Nobody can take from you your mind, the way you think. Nobody. Everybody is like CMO, and I don't mean chief marketing officer, I mean chief mind officer, because it's up to you the way you think. That's number one. Number two, FOPO is like fueling anxiety. It's fueling your stress. If you are like afraid of the other opinion, you are more and more stressed. Okay. And you are run by the other people expectations. Okay. And FOPO is neglecting what is best in you. It's like neglecting your talents when you are in the flow and stuff like that, because you are very often stressed by what the other people will say. So that's kind of the outline that the thing is. And it's good, I mean, to be good human being, and we live in some social environment, but you don't need always to seek like social approval. When Bill Gates said, hey, computers will be everywhere, it was like democratization of the computing power. He said computer at every desk. Everybody was smiling. He was not seeking 100% people should, agree with me right now. People, in fact, who are changing the world are usually, based on kind of the standards, very irrational. Rational people in their life are usually right, but only crazy people are able to change the world because they are,
Yeah.
seeing something else which other people are not seeing, right? If you take, Elon Musk, if you take, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Mandela, all of those, Martin Luther King, obviously, right? All of those people were really seeing, beyond the horizon. Okay, so that's kind of the
Yes.
kickoff of the team.
Yeah, and so important. What people don't understand is you are biologically wired, not just because you were afraid you were going to die. There's actually something wired in from your birth. Because when you're born, when you're a baby, you can't take care of yourself, right? You need other people. You need your mom to take care of you, or your dad, or whomever, whatever adult is around, because you need to be protected. So human beings were actually wired to need each other. We would not have survived otherwise. And so what they did is they wired into your brains your need for social connection. There is research. I'm not exaggerating this, guys. There is research. If you sit down and you're playing an imaginary game of Pong, so you're just sitting, your brain is being wired, and you're playing this back and forth ball toss, but not real. I mean, it's just, and all of a sudden you're tossing back and forth, and a third person comes and you're tossing in a triangle. And then all of a sudden, the other two start passing the ball to each other and they're not passing the ball to you. Would you care? You would think, no, who cares? It's a computer game. They're not passing the ball. Like,
Right.
my life is fine. I'll live, right? Nobody gets hurt. You care, and you care deeply. They know this. They study the brain about all the stupid things. You care when you feel left out. Because if you don't belong, if you're being judged, if people are pushing you out, you feel a lack of ability to survive. So even in the tiniest, smallest moments of your day, you're in a meeting, other people are getting it, you're not getting it. It's that same concept. You all of a sudden feel left out. And we only, when we get into that fear state, Jan said it so nicely, when we're in the amygdala, right? You actually don't have very many options. You have 4 options: fight, flight, freeze, appease. And depending on the situation and depending who you are only gonna act in one of those 4 ways. So I want you to really consider for a second. Some people, when they're feeling left out, go in for the attack, right? They're gonna stand up strong. They're gonna fight hard for their opinions. They're going fight. Some people get scared and go, oh my God, should I raise my hand? Should I not? I don't know. Jan was talking about this, and they just kind of sit back. Flight. Freeze. I don't know what to do. I'll just do nothing. And appease. I'll just go along with everyone. I'll be the nice guy. I'll be the nice gal, whatever it is that you want, so that I don't ruffle any feathers and nobody won't like me. But there's a fundamental flaw in all of this, which is to say, fight, flight, freeze, appease. You're still letting fear run the show. You're still letting your amygdala and that fear of other people's opinions make your decisions. And what I love about these examples with Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, there's never a time where you just say, I don't care what other people think. Everybody cares. It's wired in you. Caring and letting your fear run your actions are 2 different things. Don't let your fear run your actions. What do you use instead? Instead of the amygdala, we use this creative part of our brain. And I always coach, when I'm coaching executives, when I'm coaching, don't allow other people, other things that are around you to decide your fate. You're the creator, right? So almost instead of worrying what will other people think, what do I want to influence other people to think? I'm the creator. What do I believe? What's my message? What do I want to share in the world? And how do I start to influence other people to see it the way I see it? Right? So think, instead of trying to fight FOPO, instead of trying to pretend you don't care, just think about what do I want to say that's so important that I can influence others out, and I can actually shape their opinions. The ability to shape their opinions sits within me. I don't have to worry about how it's coming in. I can take action out.
Okay.
So I actually, and I know we ask for questions like often later in the show,
we can ask
but this
now.
is I would love now, because this is a topic that I know everyone struggles with, and I want to open it up to the audience. Where are you really struggling, where you say, I haven't done this, or I haven't tried this, or I was too afraid to quit my job because of this? And how can we then coach you or help you live? Oh, we've got a good one.
From Mika from Finland. I mean, you don't need to, right? As Lisa said, I recommend watch a new series on the BBC, Freeze the Fear with Wim Hof. I mean, absolutely. Wim Hof is they call him Iceman, and it's the combination of the cold water and breathing exercise. I do it now almost for 3 years, and it's great, for your body, and it's great for your mind, and you are really like cooling down. I think, as Lisa said, the issue with stress is that really your body and mind is like getting ready, if you are stressful, to fight for your life. If you have a stress, it's not like brainstorming exercise, because all the blood from your brain goes to your body, right? If you go for the fight, it's usually your arms and legs. If you go for the flee, but it's not usually when you can perform the best, if you are under the stress, right? So there are a couple of tips what you can do with FOPO. Number one, you can value opinion. You can like manage the opinion of the other people, but you should always like use your logical part of the brain to ask, like, not like, hey, this is it, I really don't believe that. First of all, you should basically test the resource. If it's somebody who is very valuable, right, with some good feedback, it's good. But if you click, there's a lot of people on like on Facebook, or not that much on LinkedIn, or Facebook, Instagram for sure, and they are giving a lot of hate comments. If you click on their names, usually they are not followed at all. They didn't post anything, or they have like 5 followers, right? So it's a joke. Those people are there. They are like pissed off, and they go to the Instagram to piss off other people. This is it. And and what is helping me, I'm always having in my mind, I want to work with the people who want to work with me. This is it. And whoever is giving to you something, I mean, it's like the gift. If you don't receive the gift will stay with that person. If it's some shit, this is it. That person, it's usually like the other thing is, if it's really like good feedback that you can improve something, that's absolutely fine. But that's something different than this one. So be very careful, because your amygdala will jump immediately. Hey, this is it. They are criticizing me. You can have like 100 positive feedbacks, and there will be like 1 negative. And I can bet you, unless your brain is trained, you will still stay and go around and around and around that negative piece, right? So what you can do, like every evening, you can, remind yourself what was going well during the day, what I call repair, like mistakes you did. You can, learn from that, and you can imagine how you will do it for the future. That's the way how, dopamine is released in your brain, and you feel basically good for the day. Or you can do what they call in psychology act of gratitude. You can figure out 3 things in the evening, what was going well during the day, and thanks for them. That's why we call it gratitude. We are thankful. And in the morning, imagine 3 things during the day you are looking forward, and be again thankful. And then you will start to think, your brain actually will get rewired, and you will see much more, much more positive in your life. Okay. The other thing is, to more or less ignore, if it's very negative, more or less train your brain to ignore it, right? This is it. And then, more and more, you will be able to find yourself, like who you are, the meaning of your life, the things you like to do. you will not take those, negative comments that much seriously, right? This is it, because if you are inspired and somebody is like after you, who cares, to be honest, right? So this is it. So net, be whatever is happening around you, be careful, because the thing, there is no reality. In fact, everybody's got a different reality, because my reality is different from Lisa's reality. We are creating our mindset through the way we see ourselves, we see others, and we see the whole world, and everybody got a different paradigm. Okay, once you change your paradigm, the way you think, the world will change around you. Okay, this is it. And then if you can, obviously, be with the positive people, because our emotions are contagious. So if you are still around, if around you are people who are all the time pissed off, all the time negative, guess what? You will start to be negative very soon, because we have those mirror neurons. So we are mirroring other people. This is it. That's from the history. On the other hand, if you are in the good team, there's a lot of positivity, there's innovation, and so on. It will be the same with you. You will feel good, and it's not only good for your mental health, but also for your physical health, because our brain's like chemical factory, right? All of those like endorphin, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. This is good also for for our body. And then the last point I want to make. I mean, I used to work for Microsoft for 22 years, and we were almost, at some points, we were almost monopoly, almost, not totally, but almost monopoly. And even in the business, you will never have like 100% people liking you. Okay, if 70 or 80% of the people will like what you do, that's perfect.
Yes.
Your brain wants to have like 100%, but forget it. It's impossible. It is
Yeah.
impossible. Last point, right? Very often, because I'm now like, I want, Yuri is now, he moved from 615 ATP in 2 years, he's 88. And I think there is a great chance to be top 10 in, let's say, 12 to 18, months, maybe sooner, right? I'm studying a lot of data around this. And so I never did it yet. I did, like Olympic Games medals with my folks and so on, but I never did like top 10, tennis players. So we'll
All
see.
right.
So
We're rooting for you.
what we know even from the tennis, how their brains are, basically set up. Top 10 players are winning only 56 to 58% of the balls. So top 10 players are almost half of the balls they are losing, but they are still top 10, players. They mind it's like that. I mean, the mind of Nadal, he doesn't care whether he is winning the last ball or losing. He's just, concentrating on the next ball. Okay. He's not like, oh, I'm sorry, I lost the last ball. What my fans will say, whatever. No. He's going, back to the present moment. He goes like vamos all the time. Okay? And he plays in the present moment. I will, tell you who I think was the first mental coach, in the history later on, and
Oh,
how
yeah.
how how he meant it really. So those are a couple of points which can
Yeah.
help you to fight the FOPO.
I love all these points, Jan. There are so many different reasons because it's different for every person what we're afraid of being judged about and what's the source. So for everybody, it's a little bit different. We all want to be liked is at the heart of it. And some of the stuff, for at least for my personal journey, was I knew what I wanted people to think of me, right?
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily align with what I'm really good at. Like I wanted to be really good in business. Again, we've talked about this. I wanted to be really good in strategy. My superpower is emotions. It's a weird thing to have, but it's almost like I can read people's minds. I can see inside of them. I can know what they're feeling. I feel words. I feel what they're not saying. That's my superpower. But why would I want that? So I always thought I have to hide that. I have to double down. I have to go strategy. I have to go rational. I have to cut out emotions and go business and this. And that's when I was always worried, am I good enough? Right? That's when comparison starts to come in. That's when I'm worried, did I sound smart enough? Are people getting it? Am I coming across in the way I want? Because I'm trying to cultivate something, but that I don't feel confident in. what we need to start shifting to is figuring out what are our strengths and cultivating that, because I have no problem whatsoever that people are going to judge me for my ability to coach. So I'm like, please go judge ahead, no problem, because I know that I can be really, really good at it. None of you are ever going to talk about Albert Einstein and be like, he was a really shitty tennis player. Like, who cares? He was the greatest physicist of all time, right? So we're so worried that people are going to judge us on things that are actually really irrelevant. You can even talk to my husband. I'm a woman, right? And he wanted to invite some friends over the weekend. I just flew back after 10 weeks abroad. And I said, I don't want to get the house prepped and I don't want to cook all this fancy stuff and have to do this work. And he's like, it's really casual. Just throw it together. Just have them come over. And I said to him, it doesn't work that way, because they won't judge the man at home. They'll judge the woman. Even if you are the one throwing the party, you're the one not setting it up, right? That they're going to judge. And then he looked at me and he was like, aren't you the coach who tells people not to give a shit about what people think and to live your life? And I was like, oh yeah. And that reminder, I was like, let them come over. Let them have, whatever, snack nuts and olives. I don't have to make a whole thing. So it is a constant reminder that yes, people are going to judge you. Let's not pretend that they're not going to judge you. But let's work with, why should I let that change how I show up or where I focus? If I focus on my strengths, I build my confidence. If I decide I'm just going to do what it is that's important for me, right? I'm not saying to be selfish, but I'm saying choose yourself. Don't always be living your life for choosing what others want or think of you. And there's one last thing I want to share that I feel like is really important, because as a kid, you think adults know everything, right? And then in my 20s, I came to work and I thought, wow, they know so much at work. And here I am, so green. I don't know anything. And maybe in my mid to late 20s, I started to go, do they really know that much? And now I work with executives, Fortune 100 companies, and executive boards, top of the top people. And I realize, like, they're smart, but they also don't really know. Nobody is this like perfect, really great, knowledgeable, foreseeable. Like, take for example CNN Plus. It took 300 million to launch. They closed it within 1 month because they had no subscribers.
Right.
Nobody knows. So why are we judging ourselves against some fake ideal of someone who could be great and knowledgeable? Why don't we just accept that we're all human and nobody really knows, and that's okay, right? We just kind of go forward.
Yeah. And there is a big difference between perfectionism and excellence, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
our amygdala wants us to be perfect, because everything else which is not perfect, maybe there's a little chance to be like out of the group and to die still. We will not, obviously, right? But this is what we have. Like, if you are shooting and you are like missing the goal, your coach will not kill you, obviously, but the way you think, I mean, the way it's represented in your brain, it's like, hey, I'm afraid of my life. Because perfectionism means that it's like fixed mindset. You want to be perfect, and there's nothing perfect in the world, in your life, whatever, right? Because perfectionist people wants to be perfect in all aspects of their life.
Right.
Excellence is about being better version of yourself every day and go on that, journey. Go step by step. Why excellence is also so good to fight FOPO and stress in general? Because once you try to be really best version of yourself every day, you go like step by step. You really enjoy like every present moment. And amygdala is always in the past or in the future. Your fear is not here and now. If you are here and now, you concentrate 100%, and amygdala cannot do what we call emotional hijack. If your brain is like, oh, I made some mistake, and still it's sitting in your brain, then you are not able to concentrate and you are making another mistake. So it is really like, if we are inspired, if we want to, if we really like what we do, then the chances are that we will be much better concentrated and we will perform, much, much better. I was in fact trained for half of the year. That was an online course. I even passed some exam with FC Barcelona. And there was a mental coach for the first, team teaching us. And he said when the first team is like finishing the match, 40% of the feedback is about result and 60% is about the process. It's about performance. Okay. That's the way the best. Now they have some issues, with the quality of the players, whatever now, but they'll do fine. They are quite rich club. Anyway, but this is it, right? This is really, important to realize that, perfectionism is bad. And if you want to be perfect all the life, you will die as somebody who is very unhappy and who wanted to be perfect. Excellence is something different. You don't know, I'm always talking to Iri and other players, like, you don't know whether you will, win Wimbledon or maybe US Open, or you may win 3 times, whatever. Let's go and enjoy the journey, and you will see what will happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And I see, Jan, this is probably right up your alley, but I see people all the time who are scared because when we're in this fear state of other people's opinions, when we're in the amygdala, we're in a protect mode. Like, I don't want to lose. I don't want to look stupid. I don't. So I stop myself, right? We're in protect mode. That means you will literally never reach your potential, because you're not in opportunity mode. You're not going to try to push your boundaries far enough, fast enough. So you might make incremental changes. You might go step by step in your corporate career, but you're never going to be the Elon Musk because you're busy focusing on protect versus opportunities. So if you actually want to have something interesting in your life, see what it's all about, you have to take some of those risks, right?
Absolutely.
And here's something that I learned along the way. Again, when I was younger, I thought other people know better. So I would take other people's advice, because even starting my business, I said, well, there are other entrepreneurs who have been successful. Someone give me the formula. Someone tell me what to do so I don't get it wrong, so I don't make mistakes. You tell me, right? We want to minimize our losses. What I figured out is there are many different sources of advice, and there's no one single right answer. So someone over here who is very successful gives me advice. It's good advice. It might not be the right advice for me. It doesn't make them wrong. It doesn't make it right for me. And I even did this, it's fresh in my mind. A couple of weeks ago when I was in New York City, I was thinking, I have to get in for a meeting. I don't have time to take a train. And I thought, I'll drive in. And a couple of local people who I was chatting with were like, don't drive in New York City. It's terrible. You can't do it. Even my dad was like, you don't do it. So I said, all right, I'll take an Uber. Well, it ended up costing me an Uber there and back was like $350 US, which is like the most absurd thing you could possibly think of. So the next time I was going into the city, I thought, I can drive this. And I drove in, super easy, super convenient. Parking was easy. It was no problem. It was fine. And it was like $30 to park. It's not that the people who gave me the advice, it wasn't wrong. They have trouble parking in New York City. That was for them true. I live in Zurich. New York City was like, I was like, what's the problem? This is so easy compared to Zurich. It was no problem for me. And I think this is what we start to lose, is when we think we have to listen to other people's advice, which is given very strongly, by the way, and assume that that advice would also apply for us. It doesn't. Start listening to yourself. Start trusting yourself to know what's right for you.
Absolutely. No, this one size fits all is really bad. That's why I have like 300 different, mental toughness tactiques, and it's like Chinese menu. And I'm giving like athletes, and especially it's based like on, for example, if there is some athlete who is more analytical, it's more like detail-oriented tools. If it's somebody with like strategic, futuristic talents, it's like, hey, I'm looking from the helicopter and in the issue, and then I go for the details. So you are absolutely right. Now I promise you to talk about the first mental coach in the world. Okay?
Tell us.
And that was a Buddha, in fact, right? Because I'll compare what I have heard, what Nadal told me. Nadal is one of the best tennis players still, about his game, and what Buddha was teaching, okay, and how it can relate. Rafael Nadal told me, hey, once I really learned how to not think about the previous ball, whatever happened, whether it was good, bad, but go to the present moment. Then I can, play very well, because only in your present moment you can react properly. Because otherwise, if you are not concentrated, you may take some, picture from your long-term memory, but it's not reflecting reality, and you are making mistakes, right? So what Buddha was saying, if you want to be in the present moment, you need to control your mind. Okay, this is what Nadal is doing, controlling the mind. He's forgetting about the last ball. This is why I'm saying that the champions feel like winners, even though they are maybe losing momentarily, but they still feel, because one thing is your score, the other thing is your mental score. Your mental score sits in the present moment. It's about your body, your breath, your mind, and so on. That's what, those three, like Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer, they are, perfect. He's controlling, he's like observing the mind, and that's why he's controlling the mind. Maybe he's, because his mind is maybe saying, oh, now, Federer played this fantastic volley, okay, but he is getting back. He's like, well, what? Right? We continue. It's getting back to the present moment, because only in the present moment you can react very well, because Buddha was saying only in the present moment you observe properly reality. Okay, if you observe properly reality, you see the reality is changing. I mean, it means that there will be next ball again, so it's changing, which means that you are not attached to the outcome. Okay, and if you are not attached to the outcome, you are able to get into the present moment. So that's why it's like general, because if you are attached to the outcome, you are like, and you are making some mistake, you are suffering once, you are making a mistake, and once every time you remember that. That's why they are losing, like one games, one matches. Some players are losing those, right? And it's relatively easy. It's very hard to train your mind, to train your amygdala. But once you are able to do it, then it's relatively easy. And there's a lot of people in sport, we call those athletes training types. They are very good, like rehearsing, like in your life, you are rehearsing presentation, you are rehearsing some meeting, whatever, right? So they are very good training. But once there is a pressure from the others, and that's again the FOPO, they are not able to perform at all. That's because of the amygdala, right? So which means also it is a good during the training or rehearsal to create the pressure. I tell you what, when I was with Microsoft, I used to speak in front of like 7,000-10,000 people, whatever. The issue was I was not able, to get to the flow if there was empty during rehearsal. I was like, hey, let's go, let's try mic and everything, my slides. This is it. I know once people are there, I'll be like pumped up and it will be fine. And it was like that. So that's the issue. That's the same with the athletes, by the way. If they have, for example, training, the soccer players, the stadium is empty and then it's like full, right? Yeah, but usually this, the fans, they are like pumping them. So it's good, which means, by the way, that if you train yourself to be like out of the comfort zone, even during the rehearsal, during your training, a little bit, it's like cooling down your amygdala, because you are putting more and more information and knowledge in your brain. Your long-term memory, the mental toughness is about two things: how you handle your amygdala, number one, and what is sitting in your long-term memory. Because your long-term memory, once you train that movement or you have those ideas, you are able, your long-term memory is faster than amygdala, so your long-term memory is able to shut up like your amygdala, shut down more or less, right?
Exactly, and just go into that flow.
Exactly.
Exactly, and and the big question is, and you've said it so perfectly, and everybody's wondering this: how do we shut down that amygdala? And you've given some really good tips. I mean, the big thing you can do is start to notice when it's happening and actually say, no, I'm not going to let my fear run the show here. So just having the awareness to slow it down gives you a moment to choose. And you can choose, okay, I feel the fear and I'm going to do this anyway.
Exactly. Here is the point. Here's the point. There are many parts of our brain, but there are three main parts. Number one, it's like our logical part of the brain, neocortex, and it's relatively slow because that part of the brain was developed 12, 15,000 years ago when we started to speak. Okay, so logical part of the brain, slow. Amygdala, the small monkey, which is jumping from one thing to the other, it's 5 to 10 times faster than your logical part of the brain. That's why amygdala can do emotional hijack if you allow amygdala to do it. Okay, and then the third part is your long-term memory, and it behaves like a computer. And now the thing is, as Lisa said, I'll not allow my amygdala to do this emotional hijack, but it means that there is a huge difference between, if you say I have a fear or I have a doubt, I have some negative feeling or negative emotion, I have it. That means that your logical part, logically, if I have that fear, logically, my logical part of the brain is giving the power over the brain to the amygdala, and the amygdala will start to do like fight, flee, freeze, or peace, right? And this is it. If you will say, I observe my fear, it's very different, because it says basically my logical part of the brain. It's like watching amygdala. Amygdala wants to do something, but I'll not allow amygdala to do it. Because you can obviously, if you have logic still in the game, you can ask, why do I feel the way I feel? And you will find out the trigger of your, bad feeling or fear or whatever. And very often it's absolutely bullshit. It's like, it's some idea. It can be some picture, and immediately have like some bad memories or whatever. But it works like that. The problem with amygdala is following. Amygdala, in the nutshell, is supposed to like fight for our life, okay? But because today she is the amygdala is basically evaluating all information. There's so much new information, so that part of the brain which did not change since like many thousand years ago, it's like feeling this is danger, this is danger, this is danger, this is danger. And we are giving actually, all of those devices like phones, whatever, we are giving it to the people, which is good. I mean, I was in that business for 22 years. I still put some companies. But we are not telling people, hey, be careful, because your brain is from, anxiety from the very, very old, time, right? Yes. That's why the amygdala is saying, hey, this can be dangerous, this can be dangerous, this can be dangerous. And we are back to the FOPO,
Exactly.
FOPO, I mean, if people are after you or they disagree with you, you are not, your life, it's not in the danger. But unless your brain is trained, you think like that. And if you are very often, I mean, from time to time, if you are in the stress, if your stress is like, up and down, you are like having a stress, then having a rest, having a stress, having a rest. That's fine, right? If stress is acute, you are getting better. But if it's like, chronic stress, like all the time, for example, you are in some toxic environment and people are blaming you all the time, giving you negative feedback, then it has very bad impact on your body, on your health, on your immunity. This is it.
That's it. So I want everybody to imagine this amygdala. It's like the bodyguard. And you are not going to get into the creative, amazing, rational parts of your brain until you've convinced the bodyguard to let you in.
Exactly.
Right? So you have to make sure that you can get past this amygdala hijack that's going to stop you from being rational. One of the great ways is to actually have your rational brain call out and say, hey, come on, he's with me. Come on over here. You're feeling fear, but it's all right. Come on in anyway. It's okay. The other thing that I recommend to everybody is something that Tim Ferriss does. It's called fear planning.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes. So what so often happens is we have sort of a general fear. We don't really know what it is. We haven't explored it. We don't know what's going on. And so it sits here and then we run from it. Nobody likes to feel afraid and feel nervous and feel uncomfortable. So we try to avoid it and avoid the situation. Instead, turn around, look your fear in the face and plan for it, right? So I'm thinking about, I'm making this up, but quitting my corporate job, okay? Most people would say like, I don't know, that's like a big risk. Okay. Sit down, think about it. What are the big risks? Financial, right? Okay. So what is the risk? Name it. Write it out. What is it? Now there's a column in fear planning called what can I do to mitigate? What can I do to try to make sure that it won't happen?
Yeah. Prevention column. Yeah.
Prevention. There you go. Yeah. And then if I can prevent it, great. I can't always prevent it. I don't always know what's going to happen. Nobody knows, right? So then there's a column. If it does happen, what's the worst thing that can happen? So I can already face my worst case scenario. And then also, if it does happen, what will I do about it? So I always like to say my worst case scenario prevention, or my worst case scenario plan of what will I do if everything goes to hell in my life. I tell my parents, well, you still have a couch I could sleep on, right? So for me, there's no worry about any risk I take. I could lose all of my investment money. I could get no clients anytime for the rest of my life. And I know I'll have a place to sleep, a roof over my head, and someone to feed me and someone to love me. So for me, now that I've done fear planning, I'm like, what do I have to fear? I've got the basics of everything I need no matter what. And if you start to face your fears, and again, when the amygdala says, be afraid, warning, warning, your life is in danger, save it. Don't listen to it. Don't be like, oh my God, I'm in danger. But be curious. Hey, amygdala, what's going on? Why are you telling me that? Right? That's actually what coaching and mental strength is all about. How do you get curious about this fear that's coming in? What's the cause of that? What's really going on? Oh, you think you might not be good enough in order to run your own business. Interesting. What would good enough look like? What would it take for you to feel confident that you're good enough? You need to study and you need to have a practice round with a few clients first to really do a proof of concept. Great. Now you don't have to be afraid. Now you know what you need to do in order to get past the fear that you were feeling. But not running from it, actually facing it, getting curious, knowing what it's about, then you can address it and the fear goes away.
Lisa mentioned a very important thing. What I learned, from my clients, from people from the business or from the sport, more curious you are able to be, less stress you have, because it works in the following way. Stress is about negative zoom in, like fight, freeze, flee, peace, whatever. It's a couple of things. So, but it's negative. But once you are like curious, it's like positive. You have much more options. That's number one. And number two, curious people are putting much more information in their brain. That's why they can cool down amygdala. I have a similar, tool, even though it's a little bit, different. And it has to do not necessarily only with FOPO, but also with imposter syndrome, which is like, hey, I'm not that guy, who like 60% of the students in the first year studying at Harvard, they think they don't belong there. Okay, so I have it with some, athletes in the past with the Olympic Games. They were so nervous. This is Olympic Games, 1 in 4 years, whatever. If I will, not perform very well, what the Olympic Games committee will say whatever. Okay, so what do you do? Even like if we talk about a FOPO, you take paper and you put in the center of the paper why you fear. Basically, maybe it's the opinion of somebody, some journalist wrote something about you, right? You are fearful of the Olympic Games, of your performance, whatever. You put there the source of your fear in the center of the paper. And then around that, put, everything you achieve in your life. Okay, all achievement. It doesn't need to be only in the business or sport, in your, art area, but in whatever, in you as a parents, and you will see that there are so many achievements, and you will, I call it, positive helicopter. Suddenly, from that negative zoom in, you will do like positive zoom out. Then you will see, wow, I, achieved so many things already. And this one is like another step in the right, direction, and you will, move on, right? It's like realizing that there's a progress, basically, right? And it will cool also down your amygdala. We will say, hey, there are like 100 things I did very well, and the one I'm afraid of, let's, move on, and I'll do my best.
Yeah. And there's a big voice in most people's heads that says, like, who am I to do something like that? Who am I to speak up? Who am I to dare to run my own business? Who am I to try to be a public speaker on this? We have this, it's that fear voice. People are going to think that about me. So I'm going to help, hold myself back before anyone else can say, who do you think you are, right? Who do I think I am? And I have now recently been telling people, go on Netflix, watch this mini series about Anna Delvey. She was this German heiress. She's not really a German heiress, but she kind of pretended she was. And she just showed up to every situation like, I'm going to make this happen. Why shouldn't I? I'm going to convince these people to invest. I'm going to build this foundation for myself. I'm going to go, get this investor to come in. And she had such audacity. Now, forget the morality of what she did. Let's not discuss that part. But the audacity where she showed up and said, why not me? Why shouldn't I? Right? Not in an entitled way, like everybody should be running to me, but she showed up and did the work and put herself out there and said, I can do this. I deserve to be seen and heard and to be able to create this. And I think everybody, if there's one skill you want to work on, it's not just about like, how do I stop worrying about other people? Just the opposite. I want you to empower yourself and say, how can I start being more audacious? And audacity or being audacious just means being bold,
Yeah.
right? Like bold, almost a little bit on the edge of like, I can't believe I just did that. But why not? Right? Who are you? You're a person who deserves to have a good life. Don't hurt people when you're doing it, but stand up for yourself. Ask for something that you want or need, right? Create the relationship that you want. Ask for the promotion that you want. If someone has a job and you don't love the job description, ask if there's something that can be changed for you to take that role. Ask, put yourself out there, be audacious, and you will come to find out, wow, I'm actually really powerful, and people will not judge you for that. They will respect you more for that. You will be happier. Start living your life on your terms, not just based on what you think other people want or need from you. You will not be happy. Yeah.
I've got yesterday, was it Instagram live in Czech language, and the theme was, you can be more than you think you can be. Okay.
Yes.
Because I tell you why. Because your amygdala will still disagree with you. And I tell you in the life how it works. Okay. You've got some expectation that high. Okay. And the reality is not there yet. And if you are afraid of the other people's opinion, you are lowering your expectations, right? Step by step to make sure I achieve my goals, whatever. The real, masters, they work on their reality. They go like step by step. When I have on Monday, I'm coaching, Patrick Schick. He is one of the best football players in the Bundesliga. We have a call on Monday. When Patrick played first time with Ronaldo, when he was playing with Italian league, when Ronaldo was still playing with Juventus, I said, you can do two things. You can say, I'll never be that good as Ronaldo. Or you may say, hey, I'm 23, I'm already playing with Ronaldo, and go step by step. And the last, at the European Championship, he scored 5 goals, Ronaldo scored 5 goals. So we are pretty much there.
Equals.
So those are the masters. But then you have a couple of people, the true legends. The legends, what they do that. Okay. They are like going up with their reality, but they are also higher in the expectations. Michael Jordan, Ronaldo, all of those people, they are like that. They are like making higher even the expectations. This is it. Because I tell you what, guys, success basically hurts because success is happening out of the comfort zone. Not necessarily, well, if you will do triathlon, it will hurt you a lot in your body. I can tell you. I, I did a part of that only, but anyway, it can hurt, mentally, whatever. Success is out of the comfort zone. That's why success hurts, right? But
Yes.
if you want to be like, happy in your life, this is what it takes. The one thing, I was having a keynote today. There was an e-summit, global e-summit here in Prague, okay, on the esports, right? And it's interesting because those are very good guys. They are like, they call themselves e-athletes. So I have a spiel on mental toughness in esport. What is interesting, right? Some of those guys, they are like afraid of the media, and they like managers are saying, we will protect them, whatever. I don't think this is necessarily good. I tell you what, if they like what they do, if it's like their meaning in their life, they love talents. I think even though they are introverted, that's fine. But if they will speak to the media, they will start to be more and more courageous, and it will help them also with the games. You know what I mean, right?
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah, step by step, I would build this, like whatever communication skills for them. And on the other hand, if you are a player, it doesn't matter whether it's in like sport or the e-sport, but if you are having some sponsors, you need to speak at some, events, you need to talk to the media, you need to have a profile on the social networks, you know how it works today, right? So
yes, but this is exactly it. You have to take some risks in order to get the rewards. And this is why most people are dissatisfied with their lives. Their happiness scale on a 1 to 10, I would guarantee, I can ask all of you right now, on a 1 to 10, 1 being miserable, 10 being the most amazing, incredible life ever, where would you be? Where do you think most people say? They're like, yeah, 5, 6, 7, maybe, right? It's not
9.5.
bad.
9.5.
Yes, that's what I want to hear.
The half is when Lehečka is winning Wimbledon. This is it.
You're a 10. You can do the mic drop. You're done.
Absolutely.
But there's a challenge, since most people say 5, 6, 7, is it's not bad enough to be worth risking. So they stay forever in protect mode. And I'm going to invite everyone here, don't live your life, your whole life at a 6. You can have some discomfort. It's going to be hard. You're going to grow up, but you can be a Jan at 9.5. I would say I'm pretty 9.5. Next month, I will be a 10, because next month I am spending 1 week on Seychelles, island, with a one-on-one client, doing a week of coaching. Great. That is my 10.
ask them if they need some, athletes, mental toughness coaching or whatever, or executive coaching. I'm happy to come here. Enjoy.
Exactly. But imagine Lisa, 8 years ago, I was sitting in a corporate job. If someone had said, is a billionaire going to fly you to a private island for a week of one-to-one time for your advice, I'd laugh the person out of the room. Like, yeah, right, that would happen to me.
Right.
But you allow these possibilities to unfold. Why me? Exactly. Why not me? And that is the way that you get rid of the fear of other people's opinions. You start standing in your power, in who you are, what you want. You start creating your world. You start creating your strengths. And then, by the way, by accident, people's opinions get to be really good about you, because you're confident, because it doesn't bug you, because you're doing what you love and you're good at it. And all of a sudden, people, are giving you compliments instead of saying, yeah, but you didn't do this.
No, I absolutely agree. I think, look, if you wanna, love other people, you need to love yourself first. It's not egoistic at all. You need to love who you are. You don't, all other, roles are taken. You don't have anybody else. Okay. That's number one, so love yourself, then you can love other people. And Lisa rightly said, if you do something which, like you love, and you are making other people happy through something you love, you are the happiest person in the world for you, right? Obviously, this is it. Because I think the happiest people are those who can make happy other people, through some activity they laugh, right? And then all FOPO is gone because they're like, hey, this is it, right? People, I'm really helping other people, and yeah, and I think that's probably the good summary of the session.
I think so too. So everyone, don't be afraid to be judged. Go out, be the best version of yourself, and we will love you and adore you.
Absolutely. And Lisa, make sure that you have a good connection on Seychelles.
Yeah.
We can
So we can
continue.
still have our sessions.
Dubai was so. I was quite surprised because Dubai, they had this internet city, but we struggle at once. Remember, right? But then
Yes.
they from New York, it was always good. And
Good.
yeah,
I'll make sure that I'll be there for all of you.
perfect. Okay, guys, have a good one.
Take care. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.